Nikita is a health performance and movement specialist. Having overcome serious injuries in his athletic career, he has helped hundreds of people look better, move better, and feel better. With a focus on identity-shifting transformations, this episode is for anyone looking to understand the role mobility plays in true strength, long-term health, and optimal day-to-day performance. We also cover the ins and outs of running a successful coaching business and what it's actually like to live in Bali long-term. Enjoy this one, guys.
We are a summary of our choices in any given moment. If you are unhappy, ask yourself what behaviors are preventing you from finding happiness. If you're in pain, ask, what am I doing right now that is contributing to this pain? If you are unhappy with your appearance, ask, do I need to be more kind to myself? In the end, we are the only ones who can make ourselves whole and happy because we are the only ones who know what we truly want. So, how did you come to this realization?
First of all, wow, way to summarize my words. It was because I was not happy in many areas of my life. Like, I've been in fitness industry for over 17 years. I was supposed to play professional basketball, and then I got injured, and I had to put a metal rod at very, very young age. Like at the age of 20, I had to put a metal rod in my hip. And what ended up happening was, I went through a depression. I was like cursing the world, saying, why do I have to go through this, right? But in the end, I realized because I was putting my responsibility on somebody else to fix me. So I would go to a lot of physiotherapists, and they would work on me, and I would not get better. So I would get better while they working on me, but I wouldn't take any accountability for my own actions to do something to get better. And through trial and error, I realized, as I was recovering from my own injury, I was like, oh, the more stuff I do, the better I feel. So the more I take control. And I was experimenting. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was taking a lot of courses, right? And I'm like, okay, let me apply this. I take another course, let me apply this. And then when I was working, I shifted into being like strength and conditioning coach and working with the transformation of people. I realized that, I would give them the stuff, and one day while they were doing stuff with me, they would be getting better, but they would not want to do any homework again. So they would always shift the responsibility on somebody else. And it happens in everything. It happens in relationships when we are dating somebody. It happens when you're working with somebody. Like when I'm working with a business coach, I was like, he was giving me all the right things and the strategy, but it was hard for me to execute, so I was not getting anywhere. So anytime I would look at something, if you want to make progress, like you got to take complete accountability, analyze everything that you're doing, like you track whether it's your habits in your lifestyle, whether it's habits in your nutrition, whether it's in your fitness, whether you track the business, because nobody goes, when we look at the bank account and we constantly know that we're negative, we start getting anxiety, so we don't want to even check. Like I've done that before, where it's like, oh, I'm not checking because I don't want to know, because I know it's not going to be good. Right? So it's like, and you get that anxiety. But the second you go like, okay, I'm aware of this, I'm going to take the full responsibility, I'm going to do something about it, then the anxiety starts going away. So because I was dealing with depression and anxiety a lot of times, as I was overcoming, I realized the only way to overcome it is to take action, attack it, and take full responsibility. And that's how I kind of came up with that, because whenever I work with clients, I find the people, we track stuff, right? So like I track each habit. I always say, if you do 80% of everything I'm asking you to do and you don't get a result, I'll give you all your money back. Because it's impossible to ask for not to see results if you're doing 80% of what you're supposed to be doing. Even if you do 70%, you see a huge progress, right? But the second you don't take accountability or inventory of your actions, you don't know where you're going. So you're not laser focused. So you have to be laser focused, and you have to take accountability. You have to take inventory on day-to-day basis. And then you can, unless it became ingrained in you. So once you've done certain things for like 5-6 years, like I always eat enough protein because I always done it. So I don't really need to count. It's like a second nature for me. I always get a little bit of movement in the day. Even if I'm not super active, I know that I'm going to get my 20 minutes every single day because that's who I already am. It's my ingrained personality. But when you're changing, when you're switching and you're changing your personalities and you're trying to build habits, I think the more inventory you take, the more you start realizing that this is where I am, this is where I want to go, there's this gap, this is my current behaviors. To be here you have to be this. So if I'm comparing myself to like Grant Cardone or Gary Vee or whoever else, like, and I'm trying to get to the same level of wealth or social media, first thing I do is I look at what they do. And I see like they do this, and then I ask myself, do I want to commit to doing the same amount to get as successful as they are? And then I'll be like, if I say yes, then I can't be complaining, because that's the gap I have to close. I have to get to the same amount of actions that they do. Majority of people just go like, hey, I want to be there, but I want to do this much. And that's why they don't get where they want to go.
Mate, that's awesome. Mate, there's so much to unpack there. I've got time. It's awesome.
Sure.
I'll bring that like a slightly, make sure people can hear the wisdom.
I'll be closer.
Be closer, yeah. So I think one of the things, and I want to unpack about what it was like kind of getting injured and how that really was a pinnacle point. But one thing that kind of stood out to me just from that, when I found kind of, that outlook that you have, one of the things that really stood out to me was how you phrased, if you're unhappy with your appearance, ask, do I need to be more kind to myself? Now, in a world of sort of online PTs, where there's a lot of, hey, fatty, get to the gym, or just sort of, there's quite an aggressive tone. I just found that curious how you kind of phrased it like that, and how you kind of, again, came to that realization of that was the best way. If I'm not happy with my appearance, be kind to myself. Because for a lot of people, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, if you're not happy with your appearance, go to the gym. If you're not happy with your appearance, eat better food. But what you chose to say here was be kind to yourself. So I'm really curious kind of how you came to that realization that that's actually the key.
The thing is, so I agree with you completely. You have to go to the gym. You have to go better. And to pull yourself out of the rut, you kind of have to exercise tough love. Because that's usually the snapping moment, right? Like, something will change and you're going to be like, I have to follow through. But at the same time, as you following through the steps, a lot of time people go all or nothing, right? So I love Andrew Frisiller. They have 75 hard. Great challenge, right? 2 workouts per day, like reading certain amount of books, but it's not sustainable to every single person. So the idea is that you want to build incremental changes. And a lot of times when you're starting, and let's say you've done 10 days in a row, and then something happened, because life happens, people get down because they cannot be consistent. But the consistency is not that short run of like 10, 20, 30, 50 days, right? The consistency is, and I'll give you an example. I had a client who used to drink, right? So she would drink, she would go on a bender Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then she would disappear, right? And she would not answer my messages. She would not follow through. So in the beginning, when we started doing that, it'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I won't hear a message until Wednesday. Then the next time it was message on Tuesday. Then the next time it was message on Monday. Then the next time she would only drink 2 days. And then eventually she would drink only 1 day. So in her eyes, or in my eyes, it's a huge progress.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. The progress for different people is a different thing, right? So for her biggest challenge was dealing with, she liked to drink, but then when she drank, she felt horrible about herself, that she's not sticking to what she needs to do. So if you reframe the thinking to the circumstances you're currently dealing with, and you change the perception and narrative of what health is, incrementally that perception can change. But you have to be to a certain level kind to yourself. So if your point A is somewhere low, going to the gym every single day is more than enough. You don't have to know what to do. Just showing up is good. Now, if you've done it for a month or 2 months, now you have to set up a little bit higher goals, right? But you can't be comparing the same thing that people say. We can't be comparing our step 1 to somebody's steps 100, right? In business, where we're like, oh, he's making 5 million, I'm only making 500,000, right? We're still different parts of the business.
Yeah.
Same thing applies to everything, but with body and with unrealistic expectations of social media and photoshopping pictures and lighting and angles, right? Myself included, like, there are days where I don't feel the greatest about my body because, like, I ate maybe a little bit poorly or whatever it is. So it's constantly a mental battle to be aware that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And then I'm looking at it where I'm going to be 6 months out, a year out, 5 years out, where I'm going to be by 40, 45, 50. Because if I know by 45, I'll be ahead of a lot of people who trying to push themselves as hard as possible. The longevity matters more than whatever instant gratification I'll get by being super restrictive. And I think that's what I mean by kind, because every person tries to like change their life in 3 months, 90 days, right?
Yeah.
And some people can.
Yeah.
Some people can. They have that in them. But it's a very small percentage of people who can stick to like 30, 45, 75, 90 days and be like, whoa, crazy transformation.
Yeah.
A lot of times nobody talks about what happens to those people 6 months after, how far they came back.
Yeah.
Because life happens.
Yeah.
And we go through different seasons of life.
That's really interesting. So it's what I like about that and kind of your work as well, that idea of being kind to yourself, but also kind of gradually building that new identity. So that client that you spoke about, from not reaching out until Wednesday till Tuesday, that's, as much as it is the actions are kind of, of going to the gym, of messaging you, all of this, what's actually changing is her internal state of how she thinks about herself.
True.
So she's thinking, right, okay, I'm a healthy, but she's starting to step into that identity of I am a healthy person, therefore I'm making healthy actions and I'm choosing healthy things. And I think, I personally, I believe that everything's in a game. Like everything starts in here.
Yeah.
Some people kind of, lean into sort of like action precedes clarity. But I always do believe that, if you sort it out in here, change your thoughts, change your life, like the external change. I'm curious, you talked about tough love.
Yeah.
You were in a situation where you had a rod in your hip.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did we get there? And how did applying tough love to yourself? Because you look like you're a fine specimen of a man. You're in great shape. This is something that could have really thrown someone off. And I'm curious about how you've shown tough love to yourself in what would have been a very difficult circumstance. And I'm also really curious about what happened around that as well.
Am I allowed to swear?
Absolutely. Say what you fucking want.
Nah. Honestly, what ended up happening, so I was really good, like really, really good. Like I didn't have a lot of contacts, but I genuinely thought I was supposed to play in Europe, and I thought like from Europe I'll go to play NBA, right? Everybody's dream. Maybe probably wouldn't happen, but it doesn't matter. Like that's what I believed in, and the self-belief is one of the best things that you can do to achieve any goal. But what ended up happening was I have a condition called avascular necrosis, which is basically arthritis in young people. And it's basically, if this is the hip, right here, hip bone, and this is the femoral neck, and this is the hip joint, right? So basically I had a pinched artery, which was not allowing the blood go to the cartilage, and the bone was just kind of deteriorating. And I used to fall a lot because I was really quick and I jumped really, really high, but I was skinny, so I would constantly hit the ground. Kind of played similar to like Iverson's fashion, where like we're both skinny and then we would just fall all the time on the ground. So we didn't know why it was. So it wasn't genetics, I think, or maybe it could have been genetics, but I wasn't smoking, drinking, or doing any drugs. So it wasn't probably falls or anything like that. And I was in a constant pain, but I still was able to play. And after we did the surgery, I didn't have the finances or the knowledge to do a proper rehab. Like if I know what I know now, I probably would have led a completely different life and maybe even had a chance at playing again, because the stuff that I've learned over time is like I try to apply with everybody and then it changes their lives. But what ended up happening was I was taking in university this class called Psychology of Injury Rehabilitation. And every day that we were discussing, at every class we were discussing how nobody comes back from injuries. And I was just bawling my eyes out. I would sit through the class. I failed the class because I stopped showing up. And I remember it was my ex-girlfriend at the time. And she called me out. And I needed somebody to call me out because I was miserable. I was using my hip as a crutch, like I wasn't getting good marks. I got out of shape completely because my identity was tied into being a professional basketball player. and I didn't know what to do outside of it. And what ended up happening, she called me out, and I'm not proud of this moment, but I remember I took my flip-flop and I threw at her. And that moment, I realized, like, that's the type of not that type of person I'm going to be, because she called me out, she told it to my face, where, like, you're using it as a crutch. She called me a little bitch. I got really upset. It really hurt me. And that hurt woke me up, because I did an action that I didn't want to do. Like, I've never put my hand on anybody in my whole life, like, especially a female. I mean, outside, you know, if you got in a fight, you got in a fight.
Yeah.
But I didn't like, in that moment, where it was a moment of weakness, I didn't like the actions I took, because it was the person I really loved, and the fact that I threw a flip-flop. And in that moment, it switched completely. I was like, but I needed to hear that. Like, I needed her to call me out. It was as painful as it was. And the majority of people will, you know, create a victim mentality, and they will, you know, kind of get in the corner and start crying and be like, oh no. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be that person. She's completely right. And so I made a decision that, like, all right, I need to learn as much as I need to learn about it. I started going. I didn't really fully know what I was doing, but I was, like, started exercising more. I was doing things through pain, you know. I would just do a trial and error, take more courses. And I started feeling better and better and better. Obviously, I had a couple setbacks as I was doing certain things, but that's what I call tough love, because a lot of times people need to hear the hard truth, because nobody will tell them. And then we live in a world where we get 5th place trophies and there's nothing wrong. But in the end, it's like, life is so much more difficult than people think. Doesn't matter whether you're a female or a male. It's not easy to be successful. It's not easy to be happy, and a life not supposed to be easy. So if you don't have tactical stress and somebody that applies tough love, but also kind of nurtures you through the steps, you can get better. And then I'm lucky that I have, you know, drive for personal development, but I still needed somebody to call me out, because I was living in a victim mentality in that particular time. And then whenever I work with a lot of people, now it comes down to how good of a coach you are, because I cannot come and call somebody a little bitch to their face, because they could close off completely. But I have to find the ways to show them that they are exercising victim mentality, and then they have to reframe their thinking, or they will always stay in that place where they're unhappy.
Man, that's so good. And yeah, appreciate you sharing this. And it's always so interesting, the internal place that kind of causes those actions. And I think women have a beautiful way of reflecting the things that we need to see. Women who genuinely care about us, I think that's an amazing kind of strength. And it kind of, you know, obviously that created that genesis moment for you, where it was kind of like a pivot. And yeah. And so, I mean, pain always precedes the lesson. And then once we learn the lesson, that's when we become the teacher, you know? And that's why you're able to meet people kind of where they are on their journey. So I'm curious, and that's what makes you a good coach, and that being able to meet people where they are, and, you know, like you said, that tough love, and be kind to them where they are. So that journey for you, that from that genesis moment of building all the way up to all of the knowledge that you gained along the way, how long was that? What did you learn? What were the setbacks? And when did you feel that, you know, what was that moment, just the drive that kept you going forward all the way up until now?
Not fully. That moment is why I wanted to, like, continue working on myself. And it was like the first time I was like, all right, you know what? Like, she was right, because I had like probably 3 or 4 major setbacks where I was dealing with similar issues, and I would kind of, you know, fall back into that victim mindset, because I would re-injure myself. But or I would tried to do things too fast, or I started focusing on my business more so than my health, and I would neglect the things that actually made me happy and successful beforehand. So, and as I was going through my own experiences, I was starting to realize what makes me happy. So my daily routine is completely different from a lot of people. I love watching, let's say, Alex Hormozy, and he says, the first thing that you need to do if you're working on your business is to get up and do the work on your business, right? Because that's the most important thing. The same thing with the Craig Ballantyne. They say you don't need no meditation or none of that. And I partially agree with it. And if that's the most important thing that you need to get better at, that's exactly what you should do. For me, I know that my health, right? I need a 30 minutes. All I need in the morning. So I'll get up, I'll do my cold shower, I do 30 minutes of movement, because now my body feels better. And knowing that I have the injury that mentally could, if it gets worse, can mentally set me back. I don't have a luxury of waking up and working on my fitness first. Sorry, on my business first.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I move. But that movement is just to maintain my body. It's not to even improve. It's just something that allows me to function. So every person has something that they can do every single day that would allow them to function better. You just have to figure out and unlock it. It doesn't necessarily have to be you wake up and you work on business, or you wake up and you go meditate. Each person will have something different. The problem is people believe that they need to do like an hour or 2 hours of something to get better, and then they go do it, and now it's a form of procrastination.
Yeah.
So for me, if I know I can get 20 minutes every morning that will make me feel good, and I can jump in and do my work, that's exactly what I do. And then I try, if I wake up at 5:30, I do 5:30 till 6 o'clock, I'm already working. Right, and then I'll work for 2 hours, and then I have a designated workout time.
Yeah,
and this works for me. When I work with somebody else, or how I told you, right? I say like do a little bit of movement in the midday after you sit in the computer at a particular time, because it gives your brain an ability to reset, and then you're way more productive.
Yeah.
Right. So for each person, you have to just find that little thing that will unlock it. And for me, the more I work with more people, the more I try different things, and it's kind of almost like research by observation, right? What makes different people tick, because there's certain things you can give that will be universal, and there are other things that you explore and find out that would benefit this particular person, because everybody is different. Different things make different people tick. So you can't just give like cookie cutter and say like this will go and work for you. So
awesome. Yeah,
that's pretty much how I look at it. It's very challenging, to be honest, because sometimes you like, I know that you got to go X, Y, and Z, and it's going to give you results. But when you prescribe that to somebody, you see like they're not sticking, so you're not sticking to that. So you have to figure out what exactly needs to be changed that will motivate them to stick for it, and then you also need to see what their internal beliefs are. So because you said it yourself, we go from like who you are as an identity, what are your belief system, what are your thoughts, what are your emotions, right? And then you can connect it to the actions, right? So if your belief system and your identity of somebody who doesn't believe they can do it, it doesn't matter how many habits you'll create, right? So that's why I think what I try to do every month, I try to reason with every person and ask them how far they come, what do they believe about themselves? And I always ask, can you write down, let's say, 10 to 15 wins that you have encountered within this particular month, and make them think for it? And then I say, what are the 3 challenges that we still have to overcome?
Yeah.
And then every month we see how far they come. If the same challenges stick, we need to address those challenges and figure out. But usually it happens like maybe the same challenge will be for 2 months, and then out of 3, there's only 1 or 2 that stay, so we crossed off 1. But looking at the wins allows them to remind them, okay, I'm actually progressing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people look at progress only visual or only number, but they forget about their mood, energy, sleep, other things, communication with other people, less crying, less emotion, whatever it is.
So it's building that it's building that momentum and feeling like a winner. And then you take actions like a winner when you feel like a winner. And one of the things you said is move better, feel better. Move better, feel better. And for you, I believe that's your genius. So it's interesting you brought up Hormozy. Hormozy says, right, get to work on your business, Because that's his thing. And the reason, I mean, he's spoken about this on podcasts before. He had that lack of self-worth from his dad, didn't think he was good enough, had to prove him wrong. So that was Hormozi's genius. Hormozi's genius was, and it's, pain is the greatest teacher. There, he felt the pain, so he kind of took the action that kind of got rid of that pain as quickly as possible in the day and made him feel like a winner. I think that's a really amazing bit of wisdom, how you put it, is you have to find what makes you tick. What's that thing that you can do straight away in the day that is going to make you feel like a winner? And if you feel good and you feel like a winner, like you're doing with your clients, where you're building that winner effect, you're going to keep taking actions as a winner, whatever that looks like for you. And anyone who says, hey, here's the morning routine, you need to meditate, ice bath, then do this, they're missing the point. The biggest thing, I mean, people remember how you left them feeling, not what you said. And, all our decisions are made moving us closer away from pain and closer to pleasure. So it's kind of all fits into that. But I really love that that's kind of like an underlying principle of everything that you're doing, and building winners, okay? But whatever that looks like for them as well, actually building winners.
We all know that Instagram is the new business card. It is your portal to the world, and it is the world's portal to you. The way things are going, if you're not online, you're going to be left behind over the next few years. So whether it's for networking, your business, or even relationships, your Instagram says everything about how seriously you're taking yourself and your work. It's where you invite people into your world. If you're a modern creator and you're looking to grow and scale your personal brand, you want to get paid more to be yourself and offer your unique value. You want to connect with other like-minded creators and build something that you are deeply proud of. You've become fatigued of everyone offering magic solutions online, and you actually just want to focus on delivering your unique value and what actually works. You want to connect with real creators, real artists, and real entrepreneurs. That is exactly why I launched the Modern Creator Group. We work on your unique positioning to make you one of one and a key person of influence in your specific niche. We optimize your socials to gain attention and then convert that attention into paying clients. And we focus on creating a value-driven brand that doesn't rely on pushy sales techniques. So this group is for long-term creators playing long-term games. You are looking to grow with other creators and create a deep impact while scaling your income. Click the link in the description to find out more about how to join Modern Creator, or feel free to reach out to me on Instagram and I can give you more details about how to join.
I wanted to sort of ask, and that idea of move better, feel better, how important, I mean, we can often kind of think of where we are at the moment. I think I'm healthy, but health is something that if we don't look after it, then we make these bad decisions over time. It's going to leave us and we're going to have to overcorrect. Getting older, people you work with, all of this stuff, how important do you see being able to move, your mobility, your health in that area, how does that link to general well-being? How is that going to, do people realize how their mobility, how they're moving is going to affect them, not just today, but in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And this whole idea of move better, feel better, how is that going to impact people? How is movement going to be one of the keys that's going to unlock them feeling good for, the next decade and not just, today?
Well, let's break it down this way. Like, let's try an example. Let's say when you get sick, the only thing you're thinking about is how can I not be sick?
Yes.
Right? So we've taken our health for granted until it manifested as a disease. Right? So whenever you get sick and you cannot hang out with your friends or even work or do anything, and you're laying in bed, all you say like, yo, I can't wait to get better. I can't wait to get better, right? Like, and you start really appreciating things, right? When you get in pain, it's exactly the same thing. You go like, okay, well, I don't want to be in pain. Let's say if you play basketball like I used to, I'm like, oh, I just want to go play basketball with my friends. That's what makes me happy, but I cannot do it. Then you start doing work and you're like, oh, but I can't even do work because I'm sitting in this position on the laptop and my neck is constantly hurting, right? So I can't be as productive. Yeah. So over time, if you don't have your health, we don't think about it, but your productivity goes down. The same thing, if you don't get good enough sleep over time, right? Then you're sitting like a zombie, so you're not creating a good output of work. So if you think about it, move better, feel better, right? It's kind of like, it's a generalization altogether. You don't have to move every day. You don't have to be a crazy athlete. But what you need to do, you have to come up with some kind of routine that will keep a balanced life, that will allow you to do things that you enjoy and allows you to perform at that high level. right? So majority of deaths and older age, or a very high percentage of death at older age, happens from hip breaks. Just because you don't have enough strength or stability, you slip, you break a hip. Usually, people die after hip break. Like I think it's like 8 months or 12 months. Like it's a very crazy number that when you look at it. Also, if your spine doesn't move well, your health deteriorates significantly, right? So segmentally being able to move, like do a spinal wave, like a stripper, let's say, right? Or a yogi, if we are not R-rated, right?
Either's good, yeah.
Either good. But I'm saying, like, if you can't move your spine well, right, and you're not stuck like this and you cannot bring the shoulders back, it automatically improves your health drastically, right? So that's why I'm not saying mobility cannot build muscle, but it can make you feel good, right? There's two major culprits of living longer and being healthy is healthy joints and more muscle mass and strength.
Healthy joints, so living longer, healthy joints and more muscle mass
and strength.
Okay.
Right? Because the stronger you are, the more bone density you have. It means you can perform harder tasks. The more mobile you have, which is mobility, is just moving from ability to move freely, right?
Yeah.
In different positions, right? So the more fun things you can do, so you enjoy life way more. And then the older we get, the more muscle mass we have, the more muscle acts as a hormone signaling molecule, because the older we get, the less our hormones become responsive. So that's a big thing. That's why a lot, for women especially, and I don't remember her name, but her name is Dr. Gabriel something. I can't fully remember. She always advocates to eat more protein and build more muscle, especially for women, because we become less responsive to our hormones, and the more muscle we have, the more muscle can utilize glucose, making it more efficient for us, and then we can stay leaner, and at the same time, the better it signals for our hormones to work. Okay. Right? So putting together having more muscle mass, having more strength, and having more mobility automatically will improve your overall health. If you add cardiovascular fitness on top of it, then you become at like top of a top. Doesn't matter like whether you're an athlete or something, because cardiovascular fitness obviously is good. But if you train properly, you also will be able to build your cardiovascular fitness to the high level.
This is awesome, man. And I think this is a great, interesting place to sort of unpack a few things. One of the things I've been studying is kind of like Taoism, and I find it finds itself in all areas of life. And one of the kind of lines in the Tao is that in death, men are hard and brittle, and in life, and it relates everything back to nature. In life, men are flexible and nimble. Same as like a tree. For a tree to be alive, it has to blow with the wind. You look at a palm tree. It's things that are alive are flexible. Things that are dead are hard and brittle, you know? So I find it funny how it kind of seeps into all areas of life. Now, when I met you, you very plainly said to me, hey, man, I see that you've got a few problems with your shoulders. That's not right. Look, your posture, clearly that needs fixing. And but I love that, man. But here's the thing. If I'm aware, so my question is going to be like, how can people measure where they are with this? Because if I try and hike up a mountain and I'm puffing out after 20 minutes, I know that I need to work on my cardio. If I can no longer do a push-up, I know that I need to work on my strength. If I'm feeling fucking tired all of the time, I need to know that I get more sleep. Like, it's very obvious. There's a very sort of obvious correlation. I'm feeling like this, I probably need to do this thing. For me personally, mobility is not something that I myself and maybe a lot of other people are kind of testing on a daily basis. Like, I go for a run most days. I know where I am with my fitness. I know where I am with my diet. If I eat a pizza, the next day I know I've eaten a pizza. With mobility, what can people do to be aware of where they are with their mobility? How can people test it for themselves and get a good gauge of, right, where am I with my mobility health? Perhaps you have a name for it, my mobile health, or whatever that's called.
I mean, it's quite simple. I don't think you really have to think too much about it, because if like, can you touch your toes?
Yeah.
That like I told you, mobility is a freedom of movement, right?
Yeah.
So if you feel stiff, like you're not mobile, and if you like you said it yourself, like it's so much easier, the flexible, right, moves with the wind, right?
Yeah.
Able to adjust versus a brittle and it breaks, right? So the same thing, if you cannot touch the toes, or you cannot lift your arm over your head where your arm is in line with your ear, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, you cannot sit in a deep Asian squat, right?
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes. You know, like if you're constantly moving and something aches, you know that you're not mobile. Like there's no one way where there are tests, right? And the easiest tests that I suggest people to do is like, first one is touch your toes for the lower body mobility, and then you sit down into a deep squat, right? That should tell you how mobile your lower body is. But for the upper body, if you cannot bring both arms up over your head and in line with your ears, right? And you see like the ear from the front, right? So then you wouldn't be able, then it means that there's certain issues with the thoracic spine and like the shoulder stuff, right? So, and then usually if you have a shoulder pain or rounded shoulders, you're probably like in some mobility as well. So there's no like one way how to test it. There's just specific tests that you can do based on the movement, right? But usually you will feel like how free you feel and how loose you are, and you know, does it feel challenging to reach for certain things, right? Majority of people can tell you right away, like, you know, I'm not that mobile. Like when you have a conversation, they're like, I don't think I have strength, or I cannot jump high, right? Because you already know it. So subconsciously, you know, like I'm not mobile, right? But a lot of people don't know what to do with it, right? Mobility is just strength at the end ranges. That's all it really is. It's like flexibility is basically, can I get in a position passively and hold a position passively? Mobility is, if we're talking about mobility, is a strength training at end ranges for particular muscles that are happening at the joint level. So it's using the small muscles to build the strength around joints that starts internally within your body, and then it allows you to utilize the big muscles more efficiently because the force transfer is better. So the healthier your joints are, and the more mobile your joints are, and the more strength you have at the joint level, the better you can utilize the strength of your big muscles.
Man, so I love how you put it, because it actually makes it like really, it makes sense, and it's like cool. It's like great. I get to work on it's strength training. And I feel like it's neglected. I don't see it too much online. Perhaps we're in different worlds, you know, online as well. But I see a few guys like kind of coaching mobility. And what I really like about what you're doing is you kind of have a very matter of fact approach to it. I like a lot of the mobility coaches I see, they're like hanging from trees and doing kind of wacky things. And although it's cool and it's like viral, it makes it seem really far away. It makes it seem that, oh, well, I don't really want to, you know, be a monkey necessarily. You know what I mean? That's not my goal at the moment necessarily, is to like move like a orangutan. But the way that you describe it and the way that you, you know, your curriculum with this, it's very much, I can put it into, well, I'm doing a bench press, you know, because after our first few conversations, I was like, right, well, I'm doing a bench press. And now when I'm under the bench, I'm like, I'm actually not working, that I'm not utilizing this muscle properly. I can actually now feel, I'm like, oh shit, there's weaknesses that are causing me to, you know, not be as strong and not be as capable as I could be. And it just makes sense, because after kind of having the conversations with you, it makes sense how I can apply these things into kind of things that I'm doing in the gym, things that I'm doing daily. So curious, what are some things people can do for their mobility, for that strength, that what are some things people can do to take action on it right away? So we know that, right, if I can't touch my toes, I need to have a little think. If I can't put my hand above my and see my ear, get someone to film it, then there's a few issues. So what are some things that people can start doing to work on this and start noticing it as well as they're doing these movements that they're, because a lot of us go to the gym unconsciously. I've been guilty of this.
Yeah.
How can we start noticing this and then taking action on it?
I think it's there's a couple things that people have to focus on. So first of all, the training, right? Majority of people go to the gym because they want to get fit, but their definition of fit is so vast and they don't fully understand it. Because look, what is getting fit, right? A lot of people like, do I want to lose weight? Do I feel? What is feeling healthier means to you, right? So I think getting clarity on why you go to the gym in the first place is probably the best place to start. And it happens very often when I start working with people that they don't fully understand. They're like, oh, I just want to look better, right? And it's like, but what is looking better is? And then you have to dig in and ask every single question. I like asking this question where I say, like, where would you like to be in 6 months? I want 3 goals, and I want you to give me your why. And then they have to write it down and give me a why. And then after they finished it, I go like, if you only could achieve 1 goal out of the 3, right? So really dig deep on what really matters to them, and they have to describe it. And that from there, you kind of start understanding what does the person want. From when it comes to training, it goes, honestly, you can go and perform a lot of exercise, and machines are built in a way that if you can get in a good position, it will protect you, right? But you will mostly work in the middle range of the muscle. If you do a push-up, we're not fully like the strongest in the mid ranges, right? So whenever we go outside of mid ranges, that's where we become weak, and that's where we get injured, right? And if you don't have this knowledge, like you still can go squats, lunges, everything, right? But you have to utilize a couple variables. So the first thing is, it goes mobility, stability, strength. So mobility is like, do the joints that perform particular exercise move well, and you have awareness of them. Stability, can you stabilize those joints, right? And then the third thing, now let's focus on strength of the big muscles, right? So with a lot of people, when I'll do an assessment on them, I'll give them like the first month is working on like some basic movement patterns, just creating better muscle awareness, creating better muscle-mind connection, like seeing how well they move in space, so they recognize what movements they have, and they don't feel like they have 2 left legs and they're trying to dance. And then after that, you can start breaking down each movement similar like you would teach somebody how to dance, right? Because everybody takes movement for granted. They're like, I know how to move, but they don't necessarily know how to coordinate the muscle movement in which order it has to be happening. So that's why you and I can do a squat together, but we get completely different results from doing the same squat, even though it looks exactly the same. Because I can turn on muscles more efficiently. I can coordinate the movement better. Like mine might start from the hip, or it might start from the knee, depending on what we want to focus on. So I think like overall, just level of education needs to be a little bit upgraded. And I think honestly YouTube is a great place to start for a lot of people, but you just need to know the topics. Like I think muscle mind connection, mobility, stability, like, and then understanding that it's not about just working out. It's about understanding the intention behind the workout.
That's cool.
Quick one from me, guys. If you are a modern creator looking to grow and scale your personal brand, you like the way I think and solve problems, you're looking to dial in your brand, positioning, and leverage authentic, no BS marketing that is aligned with your brand's vision and mission, and you're interested in working together more closely, please feel free to reach out on IG and we can discuss just that. Back to the episode.
It's hard for me to tell you like, oh, people need to do X, Y, and Z, right? Because each person is different. But if I could give 3 exercises that people can do that almost passively improve their mobility, I would say hanging on a bar or the rings cumulatively for about 5 minutes.
5 minutes a day?
For 5 minutes a day could make a big difference for shoulder health and rib cage. I would say sitting in the deep squat. If you can't sit in a deep squat, you can hold on to something, right? And just kind of push the elbows into your knees. So it's going to open up the adductors while loosen up the low back, work on your ankles. And the last one is grab heavy weight, decently heavy weight that you can hold for maybe like 2 minutes max, and just do a standing carry, like hold. Hold the dumbbell so it pulls.
Walking as well? Or?
You don't have to, because some people might have hip issues.
Okay.
Right? But even if you just stand and it pulls your shoulders down and you open up your rib cage and you try to and you try to focus on breathing while it's pulling you down. So it's going to loosen up some of this. It's called basically loaded stretch.
Okay.
So loaded stretch is also could be called the yielding isometrics, because you're going to be resisting. There's going to be some tension in your neck, which is going to be working because you're holding on to weight, but it's going to be very low tension. So you're going to be strengthening that tissue while it's going to be pulling the shoulders down, creating more length in your neck. So if I said like somebody who can do every single day, and you don't have to think much, I would do those 3 exercises. I still sometimes do for 15 minutes every day. So I'll do 5 minutes of one, 5 minutes of another one, 5 minutes of third one, which requires very low knowledge.
Yeah.
And you can do it every single day. And it does help.
So that's awesome, man. So to recap, anyone, the first starting exercise is dead hang.
They hang.
5 minutes total over the day.
Yes.
Deep squat, and they can hold on to something if you can't.
If you don't have ankle mobility, you're falling back, you just hold on to something and you just sit. It will open up your spine because you're going to be flexed completely, and then it will open up your hips and we'll work on your ankles at the same time.
And that's flat feet as well.
Flat feet.
Flat feet for 5 minutes again.
Yeah, 5 minutes cumulatively. I say like sitting, I would not want people to get out. Like they can sit for as long as they can, that they have to stand up, get back into it.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I see.
Because it depends. Like somebody's not that flexible, so they might, after a minute, they might be feeling like very uncomfortable. So stand up, walk around, come back and
get in.
Yeah.
And then the kind of farmer holds or what?
Farmer holds.
Holds.
If you can walk, it's amazing because it's going to be also working on the core and the hip stability. But also like 3 exercises that I like that basically take almost no effort to do while give you a lot of benefit. It's kind of like almost passive mobility approach. Yeah. There's also active mobility approach. But if you're a complete beginner, that would be a good starting point.
That's awesome, man. And it's like you said, it's intention behind it as well. But if you're spending, I guess, 15 minutes now a day, because since meeting you, I've been doing my dead hangs, and I've been really focusing on that and deep squat. And
and how did it make you feel now? Like, what, you've been doing it for a week now?
Yeah, good. I've been doing it for a couple of weeks. I feel good, but also I feel it's like you said, it's intention. Yeah. I'm now aware. I'm like now making slowly. I'm now going to start making different decisions. I used to be really into yoga. I did a whole year. I get quite into things. I went deep into yoga for about a year, and I got pretty good at it. I've lost a lot of that mobility and a lot of that flexibility, but when you're doing yoga, you're very aware of you can feel like when you can't even do a downward dog, and like the person next to you is just like breathing easily and you're shaking like this, and it seems like the easiest movement. So what it's done for me, really the big thing is it's set an intention of like, come on, actually there needs to be a bit of a shift. I need to be a bit more conscious with my training. It's making me make different decisions and think long term, which is a great gift. So I appreciate that. Thank you. But I think, that's the biggest thing. It's the feeling is, I feel great. I definitely feel good with kind of a lot more basic movements, particularly with like throwing punches and things as well. I really notice a difference there. But really the biggest thing for me is like the intention of it's like, it's that refocus, that reshift on kind of where I'm directing, my whole kind of health routine and fitness routine. We've got a few minutes left. I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit and go a little bit sort of lifestyle, and talk a little bit about what it's like for you. You're someone who's been in Bali a while. 2 years. 2 years. And I'm just kind of curious, like, what's it like seeping into the community here? I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of see Bali. You go to Bali and then you like order a matcha latte and take a picture. Like, So what's it like seeping into Bali, the community, over a period of a couple of years?
I live a little bit simpler life than the majority of people that you see on Instagram, right? So my life is work, gym, beach, and gym again, probably, right? So there are a lot of really cool people in Bali, and then I predominantly met majority of people through gym, right? Sometimes you meet them at like coffee shops, right? But I only go to like 4 or 5 different places because I want to make sure that I constantly focus on like the quality of the food since I don't cook, right? Or when I do cook, like it's easier to make decisions versus if you constantly travel to different places and, you know, you don't know how people cook.
Yeah.
I think the community is great. Like you can find, there's a different gym, let's say, have different community, like surfers have a different community, right? You can definitely can find your tribe of people here. Doesn't matter what you're into, but you have to be also very careful with your energy, right? So it's because there's a lot of, there's like two sides to Bali. There's like a glamorous side to Bali, cool Bali. So if you come here, vacation type of Bali. And if you live and work here, it's a completely different lifestyle, right? Vacation Bali is super fun. Work Bali, like I live here Bali, it's cool because you have sun all the time, you know, you get your vitamin D, you get to hit the water, you can still enjoy you, especially if you explore. So what I try to do is like maybe not every weekend or every weekend, I try to go and explore something to be a tourist, right? So I'll go a little bit further, you know, like you can go up north like to waterfalls, you go south to the beaches, right? You can, you know, explore different animals, right? So like in the jungle. So that's really, really cool. But I think a lot of people glamorize Bali from a perspective because, oh, I want to come on a vacation, right? And when you're on vacation, you just spend money, you do fun things. A lot of partying going on here, right? So like I don't associate myself with partying because I go to bed before 10 p.m., right?
Yeah.
So it's rare where like you find me after 10 p.m. I'm out. But it is definitely has a lot of benefits. I think you meet a lot of right people. I want to have met you, right?
Yeah.
But it for me it comes mostly from the same mindset. Like I attract the same people. So anybody who's in personal development, like fitness, right, will probably have similar goals, aspirations, right? So like business wise, right? There are a lot of communities. Like if you make a conscious effort to put yourself somewhere, you will attract the right people. Whether it's spiritual world, whether it's fitness world, whether it's like business world, right? Because there are a lot of things happening here. But there's also a little bit of fake things happening here where people pretend who they not really are. And then that's where you got to be a little bit more careful of.
Yeah, I agree. And someone told me the other day, I was up a mountain with them and they said, they called it Mother Bali. Mother Bali chews up and spits out a lot of people. And if your intentions aren't good and you're not, it shows you exactly where you are. Because look, there's so many people who are doing amazing things, and there's such a wider range of people doing incredible things, and it's very forward thinking, and there's a lot of people at the kind of cusp of their genius, of their particular field, really pushing. It really shows you where you are, and that kind of like big bravado, you know, big fish in a small pond, if you come over here, that soon gets knocked out of you. And you get humbled. So yes, they put it as Mother Bali chews you up and spits you out if you're not being authentically yourself. How do you find managing that party side of things, that alcohol perhaps, and because we're in a community where a lot of people live, and we're in a community where a lot of people come to party, but a lot of the people who live here can also party. So
True.
So how do you manage that yourself with alcohol, meeting people, perhaps even dating? And
Well, I don't drink, so that kind of excludes that. So it makes it so much easier, right? When you meet the right people, like they'll invite you to certain parties. Like I'm constantly being invited to go to Atlas because my friend like associated with the facilities, right? And if it doesn't align with what I want to do, I just don't do it, right? I think. It comes down, like you see, it's the same thing that I explain to my clients. It comes down to what are your priorities and what are your goals, right? And if it doesn't align with your priorities and goals, I don't feel guilty missing it, right? Like I don't care for going out on the New Year's, right? It's just another night, right? So, but if it's certain friends come around and I really haven't seen them, I'll make an effort to come out and I'll stay longer past certain time, but I will be very clear with my boundaries, right? So I think it's the matter of what are you truly seeking for, who you surround yourself with, and then it doesn't really matter because if that's not my lifestyle and it's not something that I'm really excited about, then I won't do it. I love dancing. So if you invite me to like bachata, salsa, dance hall, right, I will find time for it because it's something that gets me really excited.
yeah.
And I might stay even later, but I still will try to schedule it within the spectrum of my schedule that will keep me at my best form, shape, and genius so I can continue doing the same things. I don't want to sacrifice like what I'm currently have. And I've done, like, my friend came here, we spent the whole week traveling, doing different places. And it was a little bit of a challenge, like, because, you know, every day a different place, a different routine, different food, right? So luckily I have the skills. But it was still, we're going to bed early because we get just like, we both go to bed not later than 11 o'clock when we travel, right? So we just wake up early and do cooler stuff in the morning. So it doesn't necessarily bother me or I have to try to integrate. I just find people who have the same little vibe and we do that together.
Yeah, I love it. I think Bali tests your boundaries. And I think traveling in general, I found being nomadic, that tests your boundaries.
Challenging.
Challenges your
100%.
boundaries. But it's good because it makes you stronger. Like it makes you know what your boundaries are. Because when you're traveling, and particularly in Bali, you're invited somewhere every day. You go to a villa party every night if you want to.
You could, yeah.
You know, so you have to test your boundaries with that. With alcohol, how long have you been sober?
I mean, I've never really drank to start because I wanted to play professional sports. I think the last time I had a drink was 3 years ago, but it was like something like a glass of champagne or something. And it's kind of like, you know, oh, let's have a glass of champagne for New Year's. So they pour the whole glass. I'll take a sip. I'll put it down. So I don't even care. I don't even think it's me drinking, right? It's just kind of make sure that I raise the glass with everybody for the gesture, right? And I'll have a sip and I'll put it back. It just doesn't excite me. Like my body doesn't feel good after I drink, right? Like alcohol is quite inflammatory, right? So, and especially if you have any kind of injuries, right? It's gonna, you know, it dehydrates your body. It's gonna make you feel worse. So it's not worth it to me. So because my values and priorities lay somewhere else, I just don't see the cost benefit, right? So, and then with a lot of clients that I work with, like when it's kind of switches to them as well because they will be like they'll drink and they're like, yo, I don't even want to drink no more, right? So it's like they've been drinking, let's say casually every week, twice a week, and then all of a sudden they like started working, they reframe their thinking. They still will go sometimes and do it, but for them it's like, oh man, I felt so shit the next day, right? I'm like, I don't really want to do it, right? So once you kind of grow up in your thinking a little bit, you're just not needed to have fun. And especially if you have good personality and you can find other things, like, and you're an exciting person, right? You don't necessarily need to drink to have fun. I think it's a social conditioning that kind of makes people think that if you're not drinking, you don't belong somewhere. But I think it should be the other way around. It's like drinking should be weird because why do you need to drink to be fun? Right? Like maybe you need to work on yourself more to figure out how to be fun without alcohol, right? So it's kind of I don't really like that double-edged sword where people try to make you feel guilty for, and when you say like, no, but this is what I'm focusing on, it's like, oh, fun. I was like, okay, that's your opinion, right? We don't live the same lifestyle. Yeah,
killing yourself in the long term isn't fun. It's for me, it's like a logical decision. Like my decision to leave alcohol is just a logical one. It's not like some big epiphany. It's like, this is bad for me. I feel shit. I've got stuff to do. Right. That's stupid. Like, why would I do that then?
But there's nothing wrong with I'm saying there's nothing wrong with drinking. And a lot of people, if your body can find a way how you can do that on occasions, glass of wine is not good. Like glass of wine sometimes is actually beneficial to your health, right? So there's a lot of different things, but it just needs to align with who you are. Right. And it doesn't align with me. And if you can maintain the body and the health that you like by incorporating alcohol into your health, then be my guest. That's amazing, right? Continue doing this because you found the balance and that's who you are. And that's what's the most important part because it makes you happy and healthy. But for me, if it doesn't work, then I'm just not going to do it. It's easier for me to do it that way.
Brother, I appreciate you taking the time. It's been an awesome conversation. Where can people find you? Where can they find out more about what you're working on and follow along?
Well, I have an Instagram account. It's at Nikita, NIKITA_TPM. And TPM stands for the Pentagon Method, my company. I have a YouTube channel. It's Nikita Currins. That's all it really is. Curins, my last name. I will be eventually on a TikTok, but
Oh yeah, got some dancing in you. I heard.
I'm not there yet. I mean, I think I am there, but I just don't post. So I think it's
Yeah.
also Nikita_TPM.
Okay.
And if anybody is interested, they can just email me at nikitacurrents@gmail.com and ask any questions. I have a lot of free ebooks that I can send to you guys to help you kind of understand nutrition or movement or anything like that.
Awesome, man. I'll link all that below. Appreciate you. Thank you for taking
you.
the time.
My pleasure.
You're a G. Nice one, bro.